Hey, what is up guys? So we are going to be going over the best decks after the November 9th ban list coming here in the TCG quite soon. And also we have a YCS this upcoming weekend, which I will be attending, so I'll see some of you guys there. And with some of the deck lists for the new stuff that basically was just released in the last set. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Now, first off, I want to mention I put these in kind of categories like this is like the best, this is like the okay-ish, and this is just like, in my personal opinion, kind of like bait decks. Like they're not as good anymore because the game is out of control with the Performages. Now, with the exception of this over here, like I want to put this up on like tier -0 because if you guys haven't seen, we just got the first results from the new Bosch, the Breakers of Shadow list. And it's crazy. Look at the Performage and Pals. Like first place, second place, first place, second place, first place, second place. Do you see anything else? We got one Burning Abyss, but like pretty much that's the new meta, and it's absolutely crazy because Tour Guide's at triple. Like Burning Abyss is at its strongest point and is barely even doing anything. But it just shows you guys how strong the Performage deck is. It's absolutely crazy. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump right into it. I'll kind of talk a little bit about it if you guys want to build any of these decks. Later on this week, I will be uploading some of these deck profiles. Some of them are already available right now if you want to check the description box below. But we'll just make some comments, talk a little about it, and feel free to disagree with me and let me know why in the comment section below if you felt like I missed out on any of the information as we're going along. But anyways, let's go ahead and kick it off with the first deck. Now, we don't have everything out yet in the TCG, but once it comes out, obviously, if you guys haven't seen the deck, it's going to be the best deck. I'll put a link down below in the description box so you guys can watch how the deck plays. It's out of control. It's literally you win turn 1, you have multiple solemns, and you tell your opponent, go ahead. And what are they going to do? Against like triple, sometimes even 4 copies of a solemn card. You get to triple notice, and then you got your warning. We don't have judgment here in the TCG, but in the OCG for playing in that format. You've probably already seen the deck. You already know that this deck is absolutely a real pain to deal with. This is so tier 0. I don't even think anything can compete with it. Not even Kozmos as of right now. The deck will absolutely get destroyed turn 1. Because what do you do in Kozmos turn 1? Absolutely nothing. You can't put up an aggressive field. This deck, however, can put up such an aggressive field turn 1. And like this card isn't even that hard to deal with at all. Because, oh man, don't worry, no targets, man. But yeah. Just wanted to mention that real quick. So, this deck has the best consistency. It has the best first turn. It has the best re-comeback because you have 1 card comebacks. You have so many OTKs built into the deck. The deck is just, it's got everything that you'd want in a deck. It has stun. It has consistency. It has the ability to OTK. Like, those are the 3 things that make a great deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Great. It's got everything. Next up, we have Kozmos. Now, this is a TCG only archetype, so obviously we won't see it topping in the OCG until they actually get it. But the Kozmos are a fantastic OTK, and they're such a resilient deck. It's like, oh, you want to do anything to my monster? Majespecters, you want to target? Oh, sorry, first off, you can't target. Second off, if you want to target the smaller monster, psych, you swap targets, and it's just like, you get a bigger monster. The main problem that I have when I'm playing Majespecters is if you have to deal with Dark Destroyer. I've tried Moon and Mirror Shield. I tried triple. I tried playing dualities to get that. But the deck can just throw this card out so fast. And you're like, oh, wait, what am I going to do? Throw out a first turn Majespecter, quick Sun and Moon Shield, then they just go Slip Rider Pop, attack over it, and then like a swap E-Tally, go game? Like, it's a very nightmarish matchup. I feel like Majespecters absolutely get destroyed by Kozmos. Kozmos have the easiest matchup in the world simply because this deck has such a hard time dealing with this. It's basically game over once this card is out. Unless, of course, like I said, you're playing Sun and Moon Shield, and even then, it's too hard just to throw it on it. You have to, like, wait for them to go for Dark Destroyer, then you try to run over it, and then the deck never dies, because it's like, oh, I go into Slip Rider. Oh, crap, you made Slip Rider. Now, or no, sorry, not Slip Rider, but the, Forerunner. Forerunner is just like, nope, you still can't target. 200 attack under it. There is a little bit of other cards coming out for the Majespecters. There's one that doubles their attack. It's still mediocre. I feel like it's still not going to make the deck, especially because this deck brings out the Forerunner, and then it brings out the Slip Rider, and it's just, I mean, I guess you could go Dogfighter if you really played that card, but a lot of people just don't even play Dogfighter. But for the most part, this deck can OTK, it can push through things like crazy, and it's just so resilient on like, oh, you can't do anything to my stuff. I like how they're like, oh, let's get rid of towers, Kozmo and Dark Destroyer now. Welcome to this game. But anyways, next up, Majespecters. I feel like Majespecters are a fantastic deck against a lot of the older stuff. Against the new stuff, like if you play Majespecters, you get matchup against this, is auto lose. You get matchup against Kozmos, is auto lose. Like it's good against like the older stuff. Like yeah, you can beat Satellars, you can beat decks that revolve around like, oh, I get to summon once per turn. Where like I know they have Call of the Haunted, but for the most part that would be. I'm going to be doing that on the end phase. But as far as their turn goes, like it's usually Altair, Deneb, try to go for a rank 4. Oh, you negate Altair. Oh, okay. I don't have any follow-ups. And then Majespecters, like I said, they will beat some of the older decks, and they do it really, really well, and they have so much advantage. They can generate advantage really, really quick. But against these two decks, it doesn't have a chance at all. So if you guys are interested in building this deck, it'll be temporarily good, but in the future, they are getting more support, but the support doesn't compete with this. It's not even on the same level. Unless they were like, oh, we have a Majespector that now has 3,000 attack and it can't be targeted or destroyed, then we're looking at something much better for the deck. Like at the moment, the Pegasus is like a pretty decent card, but you just get outclassed by everything is really what it comes down to. Next up, everything, like, basically it was Necros, the Burning Abyss, the Shaddolls. Like, those were, like, the most popular decks. I guess Ritual Beast to some extent, but that deck didn't top as much as the other decks. Everything got hit except for Satellars, so I consider Satellars really good. Also, one thing that makes this deck super, super great is this card over here, Anti-Spell Fragrance. Because they can reset this card with Trigger, and then they can just keep on getting annoying with this card. Anti-Spell Fragrance makes the deck. A lot of them have been main decking this, even in the OCG. Heck, dude, there's so many decks in the OCG that just main deck this card in general, because if you go and make your Pendulum Scale and then you're like, okay, I set Anti-Spell Fragrance, I flip it up, you lose in Mirror Match. There is that new spell card where you get to destroy, you discard a card, then you get to destroy 2 spell and traps. That card is amazing. It actually is main decked in a lot of different decks now in the OCG, especially even in Performage and Pal's Mirror Match. You really need that card. But Anti-Spell Fragrance just makes it so they can't even play at all. If they don't have that card, they can't play. So specifically because Satellars can really abuse this card with Trigger, it's awesome. And then the deck just got reprinted, so excellent, like, budget decks, so to speak. I know some of the cards in the extra deck can get a little bit pricey, but for the most part, Sattelarknight's banned, so, like, a lot cheaper then. But I know in the next upcoming YCS, obviously, you can still use Exiton. Next up, any version of, like, the Performage, Performapal, like, just Pendulum decks in general. Like, you can basically get, like, 3 copies of Structure deck, add in a few cards, and you're looking at a relatively decent, strong deck, because everything else pretty much got hit on the ban list, so any just version of Pendulum, Performage, it could do relatively well. And then next up we have Infernoids. Now this deck, it's kind of like a gamble deck. I actually already have this deck profile up, so if you guys want to maybe, I'll put an annotation up to if you want to click on it on Unku, you can go ahead and check out the deck profile. This one was a winner. It was a first place deck profile, so if you guys, like I said, want to check that out. But this deck, it relies heavily off of Reasoning. And there's, Retaliating Sea, where it can completely dump on the deck. But specifically because this deck relies off of, like, literally, it's like, I activate Reasoning, did it go through? No? Okay, well, I lose. If it does go through, you win. Now, this deck, it just absolutely destroys it. Like, sometimes with this deck, you don't have that option to go for a first-turn Reasoning. And if you don't have first-turn Reasoning, the deck falls apart relatively quick when you're matched up against Kozmos, a very, very aggressive deck. So try it out yourself, see if you like it. A lot of people wanted to buy the deck right after it won that tournament. And then it went back down in price because people were like, you know what, I don't really like this because when I activate Reasoning, I go straight into my level 1, or I go straight into, like, Illumina, and then, like, I don't have any follow-up plays, and then I pass, and this deck generally doesn't have that much back row at all, and then you get wrecked by Dark Destroyer, like, really hard, and then also this deck. But this deck isn't technically out yet in the TCG. But next up, for other decks that I think are pretty good, that you can try out yourself, I think that Burning Abyss are still relevant. We still need to wait for Beatrice, I believe is her name. That card makes the deck so much better. And like I said, guys, in the OCG, they have everything at max potential, and the deck still can't compete with this. Not even close, as you guys have seen, I showed you guys already. I mean, the deck is still, like, a decent deck, and Dante is still Dante. He's still ridiculously good. And I also think Ritual Beasts are kind of good. Yeah, of course, with one Kanahawk, if it gets wrecked, then you're at a really, really bad state. What's funny is people were like, wow, if your Kanahawk gets bottomless, then you basically are out. Like, you can't bottomless Kanahawk. It's 1400 attack. I've seen so many discussion videos talking about, oh, if this card gets freaking bottomless, I'm like, I don't know. Are you trying to equip this card? You have a spell to increase their attack or something? I don't know. Either way, I still feel like this deck is relatively decent, but you have to be really, really careful. You lose Clownahawk, you lose the game. But it's okay. I mean, the way Yu-Gi-Oh's gotten is basically you have like one turn, especially against like these types of decks where this OTK is like crazy. This like doesn't let you play, and it OTKs, and it has the best consistency ever. It doesn't matter that if that one goes away, you lose. It really doesn't. Don't worry too much about that, especially coming into the next formats. Next up, the Cyframes. I feel like this is an okay deck. Everyone always has that argument, well, if you don't do anything against Cyframes, then that deck can't do anything to you. Yeah, it's pretty true. That's one problem that the deck does technically have. I've seen people do Yosenju Cyframes. You can brick super hard in that deck because of the vanillas, and like, yeah, you can open up really bad in that deck. And the thing with Solemn Notice is it completely destroys that deck. Stratos can also be pretty good against this deck as well. But not every deck, I understand, has access to Stardust, but for the most part, Notice is going to completely destroy this deck. Notice is going to destroy a lot of decks that revolve around, like, especially if they're going to get 3 Notice, like, you know, turn 1, it's very difficult to deal with. And especially in this deck, you have to control no monsters. So, like, sometimes if they have something where it's just, like, one negation, you only have, like, one thing to stop. Maybe they already completed their Pendulum Scale or something like that. It just out power creep basically, but it'll be temporarily good. It's kind of like Majespector. It's gonna be kind of good for a little bit until we get everything else. I still think that the Cosmos just destroy this deck, just because like they're just like Psych Tag out, and you can't really get rid of them, especially since this deck relies off the field spell so much. I know there's Psychic Field Zones so they get banished, but like that's not going to be relevant because the Cyframes can just, the Cosmos can just OTK the deck. Like, you can OTK and do like 12,000 plus damage in this deck, especially if you can Dark Destroyer again to destroy like another big level Cosmo like ship, and then that gets you out like a Floor Runner, Slip Rider, and like Slip Rider can pop the fields, but like there's just too many problems that this deck can have. If you haven't played the deck, try it out. I highly recommend you guys to play all the decks and see which ones you like. And again, if you guys disagree with me on anything, I'd love to hear your comments in the comment section below. Then there's Yang Xing's. Yang Xing's a very, very slow deck. It has the same problem that this deck has. If you're setting stuff, you're going to get outplayed, outclassed by these decks. Like, these decks are just too aggressive, they're too fast, you can't really compete with them. I know Yang Xing, obviously, you can stall much harder with against Cosmos, but against this, with the triple cell, no chance at all. And then I wanted to briefly mention Ignites. I put this card here because I wanted to mention Ignites. I feel like Ignites, they're just like a few short cards away from being like really, really good. But the deck, it just got out power creep. Like, you can't deal with triple solemn notice. Like, very few decks can deal with triple solemns. Like I said, there is that card that lets you destroy multiple cards, but you have to discard a card. And then I wanted to put Mermails here. Mermails absolutely get destroyed by Solemn Notice. I know they'll be good for a little bit. It'll be kind of like Majespecters, kind of like some of these other decks that we talked about. It's just that it gets out power creep so hard. And literally, if you don't have OTK in this deck, especially if you're playing the aggressive builds, a lot of the OCG ones were like super aggressive. They were like, no traps at all. Maybe a Torrential here, maybe like a Warning. But for the most part, it's not a very trap heavy deck because it wants to play very aggressive. And if you get matched up against this, you auto lose. If you get matched up against this, you have a really bad matchup. You can't OTK them because this deck is so resilient. This card comes out and like I don't know, you just cry a little bit. Very a nasty card to deal with because like this card can only negate the effects of all face-up monsters who have less attack than this card. One thing I do want to mention, I guess if you have the equip, yeah, you can do some stuff because it's gonna make it so it has less attack. But for the most part, this deck just completely destroys Mermails. And in addition, Notice hurts too much. It's not even just that this deck can search out the Notice with the Ariadne. It's just that the Notice in general just destroys Mermails. That's just what it comes down to. Notice in general, it's too good of a card. But for other decks, I wanted to mention basically everything that died off last format, with the exception of like maybe Burning Abyss because we're getting more support basically for this deck. Necros, it's too difficult to make Trish now with Shrit gone, and that was like their triumph card. This is what really helped out against a lot of different decks. Just because you're able to, it's cool, man. Just get this card out, or just Trishula in general is just a great card, as you guys know. There's a reason why it was banned. But yeah, Narcos, I feel like a lot of people are still going to try the deck. It's still going to be like there, but it's not going to be like anywhere near these decks. At least that's what I think, because you lost a lot of consistency, and that happens. Yeah, they're also down here. Gyrigias is like super bait. Like you have to. Okay, I feel like Gyrigias would be lower here if I can only make it lower. And the reason why I want to put it lower is simply because the fact that if you play the multiple gear, you're playing like level 3 monsters, and like if you draw those, it sucks. I know like if you want to play a rank 4 spam deck, go to Sattelarknight. It's just it's so much better, especially with the addition of again the anti-spell fragrance. It just helps out the deck so much. And like what are you gonna do? A first turn set armor pass? Like you're way too slow. You're just gonna get out. You're just get completely destroyed by this deck. Next up, I wanted to mention Melodus. Now they keep on releasing support for this. I feel like this deck can be good eventually, like later down the line, simply because they keep on supporting it. It's gonna be that deck. Until they get to Spellbook of Judgment, they're gonna get support for days, and then someone's gonna get banned. I feel like this is also a character deck, so a lot of the character decks they just dump out support until it becomes good. So I feel like if you want to pick up some of these, it's not a bad idea. Or just like look out for the deck, maybe set them aside. They could be getting. I know they're getting more support until they get the broken support. I don't know when, but I feel like eventually it's gonna happen. There's also Raid Raptors. Raid Raptors, pretty decent deck, but it's going to get outclassed again by everything else. But the thing is, the deck is really consistent, but it doesn't do anything like turn 1. Like, it very rarely would be like, oh, first turn Shockmaster, or, well, I know it's banned in the TCG, but, or first turn I make a card that makes it so you can't play. Your best play multiple times is usually like 4 Strix, because a lot of the things have this restriction of you can only go for Raid Raptors that turn. So like there's your downside, you can't go for the Infinity, and that's the main problem that the deck will have against the newer stuff. You're just gonna get outsped, because even if you go, unless you have to have Aegir's attack, well, even then you can still technically lose, because the Solemn Notice is just too strong. Because even though you have a bunch of cards, they just activate 2 of those Solemns and outskilled basically. Again, a lot of these decks are going to lose to the same thing. Next up, the Aether, the Heaven Monarch. Or just Monarchs in general. Monarchs got outsped. The Notice just completely dumps on the deck. If you guys haven't seen how this deck plays, I actually have a deck profile of this deck already up right now. So if you guys want to check the description box below, you can do so. And you can watch how the deck plays. Like, it's going to be another deck that's going to be good temporarily. But I feel like, I don't know when we're getting the structure deck also. I don't think we have a confirmation on a release date for the TCG. But if this stuff comes out before this or at the same time, then there's no point of even picking this up, because this is going to get outclassed. Again, this is all talking about if you want to play competitively in this game. But if you guys disagree with me with any of the things that we mentioned, let me know in the comment section below. And if you guys want to check out any of the deck profiles, I will be uploading them later this week, because I will be attending the YCS this weekend, like I mentioned. And I'll be getting all the deck profiles. Basically, I want to get some Majespector's deck profiles, because I want to see people's build, because I feel like this deck has no chance against Kozmos. And the chance is maybe 1 out of like 20 games you can win, because this card just destroys the deck so hard. It just gets outclassed. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and like I said, I'll be uploading deck profiles for a bunch of these decks. Hopefully we'll get the Beatrice soon, and hopefully we'll get the Monarch stuff before this, because otherwise I feel like this wouldn't do very well. It doesn't do very well against anything that has like a 1 summon. You lose to this deck, especially, or just Notice in general. Again, Notice is just going to completely change the game. That's going to be one of the best sets in the game. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Like I said, download the decks, or just watch some of the deck profiles. And there's also probably videos to watch the decks in action, because watch this one. First off, watch this one, and you'll understand why everything is going to get outclassed in the game. And that's why you basically need to be playing this deck, or you just Performage and Pals, man. Performage and Pals for days. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. It's been your boy Will Smith, signing out.